listening to Party Time, My Golf Story with Kevin Walsh and whatever special guest he has today. You can check me out on episode 9 of the podcast. Today I'm wearing Grayson clothes while I'm out practicing because I believe in look good, play good. And follow me on Instagram, Sophia Warren Golf, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers. And the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Vizzacaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com. Now here's your host, Kevin Walsh.
Hey everyone, welcome to the program. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. Our guest on Party Time, My Golf Story is Michael Bradley, 4-time PGA Tour winner. He's one of my caddy buddies. I'll tell you this straight up. I enjoy my conversations with Michael Bradley as much as anybody because of his golfing prowess in the past, just his attitude about life, where he is in life, who he's played golf with, where he's been, where he's going with stuff. He's just a fascinating person, and he's very humble to the core. My kind of guy. Before we go any farther, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, would you please do so? Because it helps the nerds to keep track of these things at Google, at YouTube, at Spotify, all that stuff. It makes a big difference. You probably hear that on other podcasts. It also helps our title sponsors, which we appreciate very much. Party is a drink that you ought to have at your golf course. And if you don't, then make sure you get it. And by the way, Paradise Craft Distributors is the exclusive distributor of Party across the state of Florida. If you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course, if you've had enough of those drinks that are named after a time of day or a crustacean or beer kind of makes you feel a little too full when you're swinging, try a Party. And Transfusion, the number one drink in golf, and our Transfusion is far and away our number one seller. And a big thanks to the golf real estate pros of Gene Walsh and Vince Vizzacaro from suncoastdreams.com, a division of fine properties in the greater Sarasota area. If your dream is to live on a golf course, like where this podcast originates from at Lakewood National Golf Club, Gene and Vince, they're your neighbors there. They know the place. They got you all taken care of. So check them out, and you'll be glad you did. All right, let's bring the man of the hour. There's my buddy, Michael. Very glad to talk to you, Michael. We've been working on this for a while, and finally we're getting her done. My goal here, Michael, is to just duplicate a conversation that you and I have in the Caddy Shack. I always enjoy talking to you. Is the feeling mutual? I mean,
absolutely, Kevin. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and looking forward to a fun little conversation with you.
Well, you're a fascinating guy. I mean, based on your golf pedigree, how it all started, where you went, national championships, close calls at Oklahoma State, and then winning 4 times on the PGA Tour, which I think puts you in about like the 92nd percentile of anybody that's ever played on the PGA Tour. So you've had great success and a long run. Let's go back to the beginning. Where does your golf journey begin?
You know, I grew up in the Tampa area, and my father was a club professional. So I wanted to be where my dad was, and that was the golf course. So I spent a lot of time at the golf course, and fell in love with the game at a young age. Played my first tournament when I was actually 7 years old. It was the Pee Wee International up in Orlando, and I finished third. So I've been playing competitively for quite a while, but that was kind of the beginnings of the game. I was always around golf. And again, I wanted to be where my dad was. So, put 2 and 2 together, and that's where I was.
Here you are. Did you always aspire to be on the PGA Tour from a competitive sense, or was it in the service industry as a club pro? Did you know early on, or it took a while for it all to come together, whatever it was?
Believe it or not, I think at a younger age, I think I did aspire to want to play for a living. I didn't want to be a club pro or a teaching pro. I wanted to play for a living. So yeah, I knew at a relatively early age that's kind of what I aspired to do.
Were you good fast, or did it take a while to get your footing? It sounds like playing in your first golf tournament, you finished third place. It was probably an accelerated path. Tell me.
Yeah, no. I was fortunate early playing competitive golf, and I had some success won a number of events as a junior. Actually, when I was a senior in high school, Golf Week, I was the number one ranked amateur in the country, according to Golf Week. And that's how, that's how I ended up at Oklahoma State. But I was fortunate. I won quite a bit as a junior, and that kind of gave me the confidence to think maybe I could take it to the next level.
Well, you took it to the next level, and man, were you guys a juggernaut at Oklahoma State? You won a national championship and finished second three times. Sorry. And boy, was that team stacked. Let's start with Scott Verplank. When you got there, what was it like seeing him in person? Because he was the man.
Scott was a great leader. He obviously won a PGA Tour event while I was in school. He won the U.S. Amateur at Oak Tree while he was in school. So he was a great leader. We all aspired to be like him, not only from a golf standpoint, but academically, he was an All-American academically as well. So, he covered both sides of the spectrum. So it was someone that we aspired to be like.
But he was so good, winning as an amateur and then winning the U.S. Amateur was. Did you ever feel like, hey, I can get to that level, or did he seem a little out of reach, maybe like Tiger was when he was in college? We obviously got to see him. We obviously qualified quite a bit, and we practiced obviously together. So I mean, you could see, what you needed to improve on. You saw what he did, how he practiced, and I think a lot of that, kind of rubbed off on the rest of us. And Scott just spent an hour and a half chipping, or Scott just spent 2 hours putting, or whatever the case was. And a lot of times you wanted to emulate what he was doing. You figured if it works for him, maybe it'll work for us. So that's kind of how we learn. We learned by observing. Did you guys have fun in college, or was it all business and all golf all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I would say early in freshman, sophomore year, I mean, it was definitely all business. But I think as we became juniors and seniors, and we kind of, even though we'd have qualifiers, we kind of figured that coach was probably going to play us anyways. A lot of times on the weekends, we'd go out and we'd enjoy ourselves, and maybe might have a few too many. And a lot of times, it might be 8 o'clock in the morning, we'd get a call, and he found out we went out, and we're like, "Hey boys, be at Stillwater Country Club in an hour. We're going to go qualify." And we're all hungover. We're thinking, man, somebody ratted us out.
That you're telling my story. Well, that is college golf. I mean, it's so demanding based on the time, because you have 2 seasons for one, and the grind of golf. It's not like you have a 2-hour practice. You have your round of golf, and then you have your other responsibilities with chipping and putting and all that comes with it. It's kind of, in some cases, it's hard to have a social life, but I'm glad you found time for it, because that's what college is all about. Now, in addition to Scott Verplank, you had some other studs on that team. Who else was there?
We had Jeff Maggart for a couple of years. I think people recognize that name from many years on tour and the Champions Tour. Brian Watts, who was a first team All-American. He played in Japan predominantly as a professional. And if you guys remember, 1998, I want to say he took Mark O'Meara to a playoff to win the Open Championship. So obviously a very, very good player. EJ Pfister. EJ won NCAAs as an individual his senior year. And then we had some other good players, Kevin Whipple, John O'Neill, Tim Fleming, a few other guys that really were, Kevin Wentworth, Bob May. So we had a really good team, and had a lot of good teams.
You sure did. My goodness. What was it, all golf for you growing up, or did you play other sports?
I played baseball probably when I was, started maybe around 9 or 10, 11. I was playing baseball, and I remember my parents just coming to me, and just between golf and baseball practice, they said, "Hey, pick one. We don't really care. Whatever you enjoy, just pick one." And I picked golf, and I guess in retrospect, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, you made the right decision. No doubt about that. Now, despite all your success, Michael, you strike me as a very humble, a very happy person. And but I'm wondering, is there a competitive fire deep underneath it? You tell me, who's the real Michael Bradley here?
Yeah, I've got to admit, when I was younger, I was a fierce competitor. I did not want to lose. I didn't care what it was. If it was, walking from here to the car or whatever the case was. And man, I tell you what, if you beat me, I really wanted you the next time. But as I've gotten older and I've mellowed, and I think especially after I had children came into my life, I think that, not that I still don't have the competitive fire, but I think it's just kind of maybe natural as you get older, maybe just wanes a little bit. But I still enjoy the competition, and with my son playing, and he brings me a lot of joy when it comes to golf, as well does my daughter. But I was very competitive growing up, and I was gracious. I was gracious in victory. I was gracious in defeat. But if you beat me, I remembered it. And next time we're gonna hook up, I wanted you.
Revenge is a beautiful thing on the golf course. Michael Bradley is our guest here on Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. If you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course, try a Party. And if your dream is to live in a golf real estate community like Lakewood National Golf Club, where this podcast originates from, nobody better than the golf real estate pros of Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro from suncoastdreams.com, a division of Fine Properties. They got you all set up, not just at Lakewood National, but all around the greater Sarasota area. So tell me about golf with the family. Your son, he's having a pretty good run. What's going on with him, and how involved are you in his game?
So he is a junior up at University of North Florida. He did play on the golf team for the first 2 years, and this last year, it's one of those coaches that he doesn't have qualifying for the matches, and James kind of got a sour taste in his mouth because he kind of would take who he wanted to take. So he actually sat out this year, but he's playing a lot of tournaments over the summer, going to some qualifiers. Florida Opens, U.S. Opens, Southern Am qualifiers, et cetera, and just trying to stay busy over the summer until he goes back to school. And I'm not sure whether he has aspirations to maybe try to do what I did, or stay in the golf business. I'm not really sure. If you'd asked me a couple of years ago, I'd have said, yeah, I think he wants to try to play for a living. I don't know as much now, but I'm there to support him regardless of whatever he wants to do.
How much of you are just his dad and an instructor or coach, or, hey son, I've been down this road before, let me help you out? Or do you just leave him alone?
No, he's actually very receptive to what I have to say. And that's encouraging. I know sometimes kids at that age, it's like, yeah, I know. But he is, and he'll say, hey, hey dad, how's my ball position? Hey dad, how's this or that? But I don't try to be too intrusive when it comes to that. If I see something that doesn't look right, I'll say, "Hey, James, man, you look like you're not you have no shaftling with the irons at address, or something that maybe I'm used to not seeing him do." But I try to kind of be a little quiet unless I see something that's glaring, and I think that I should bring it to his attention.
Did you turn pro as soon as you finished at Oklahoma State?
I did. So I turned pro in 1988. I finished, in May or whatever of 88 and turned pro. For the first about 4 years, I played the Florida Mini Tour, the Space Coast Tour. I went over to Canada and Australia, and I went through their Q schools, and I got my card. So I played on those tours for about 4 years, until I got my card, the Q school of 1992, and then 93 was my rookie year, and then the rest was kind of history.
So you got through Q school for the PGA Tour first time?
No, that was probably my fourth. I think my fourth time is when I got through. I'd always get through first stage, no problem. And I get to second stage, I'd have a bulky putter and end up missing by a couple shots. And then this never got to finals. So the first time I got to finals, I made it through, and it was funny. It was at the Woodlands, and I was probably about 5 shots inside the number, and I've got about 5 holes left, and I just start. I'm choking my guts out. I am. I'll be honest with you. I'm bogey here, and I'm double. And I finally get to 18, and I'm kind of, what's the number going to be? And I know I'm 2 shots inside it, and I've got like a 50-footer on 18, and I run it by like 8 feet and cozy up there, and I make it by a shot. And my wife at the time, she was caddying for me. I'm never doing this again. She's crying. I mean, it was just. But yeah, I was choking my guts out coming in. It was just the first time I'd ever been in that position, but I made it. I kept my card as a rookie. If you go back to the 92 Q school for 93, if you look at all the rookies, I think there was only 2 or 3 of us that year that kept their card, and I was one of them. So.
Well, the pressure, I've heard others who've been through final stages Q school say about the same thing. It is the most pressure they've ever felt. But you felt pressure, like trying to get in the house, getting your first win on the tour. You won 4 times, playing in major events and everything. Was Q school worse than any of those?
I'd have to say yes. The morning before the last round, I was having breakfast, and I was doing everything I could just to get some kind of food in me. I just had no appetite. And, but it was a good experience. That's how, I think that's how you grow as a person. Somebody once told me that, you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's not only in golf, but I think a lot of times in life, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And if you can do that, man, what an advantage you've got.
Getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. So tell me about your first pro event, even if it wasn't the first, but like early on, did you have any like, whoa moments? I don't got that, or this is going to be harder than I thought.
No. Obviously early in my career, I played the mini tours, and actually my second event as a pro right here down at Summerfield Crossing. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Not familiar, but tell me about it.
But it was a Florida Tour event, and I shoot 67, 63, and I win by like 7 shots, 8 shots. I'm like, oh, this pro stuff's easy. But I was fortunate that I had some success early, and I think that momentum kind of carried me through. And I had a couple wins in Canada, and I had some good finishes in Australia, although I never won, but I played well enough to obviously keep my card every year. And, it was just good for me to travel and to experience new, parts of the world, and just, try to hone my game and try to get better. So when I had the opportunity, the Q school would come around, that I could hopefully get through.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a great golf story. One of your go-tos. It could be about Jack, could be about Greg Norman, Tiger.
You know what? I guess really, so 1998, my second Masters, and I knew Mr. Nicklaus just from Gary and Jackie from playing with him. I'd known him, so I get paired with him on Saturday. So we're walking down 7, kind of that tight par 4. We're about 100 yards off the tee, and he's maybe about 10 feet to my left. And I said, "Boy, Mr. Nicklaus," I said, "I bet you've seen a lot of changes in the years you've been here." And he kind of looks over at me, and we're both walking, and he's looking at me, and he's not saying anything. And it probably was only a few seconds, but it felt like about 30 seconds. And we're walking, and I'm going, "Man, why'd you open your mouth?" What'd you say to, and he's walking, and he kind of looks left, and he points. He goes, "You see those loblolly pines? They're 70, 80 foot tall." I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "When I first came here, they were 10 foot tall." I said, "Yeah." I said, "You've seen a lot of change since you first got here." So that was a cool story with Mr. Nicklaus. But I thought I might have said something that offended him, but I took it the wrong way.
But you called him Mr. Nicklaus? You didn't call him Jack?
Always Mr. Nicklaus, Mr. Palmer. I always called him Mr. Never addressed him as Arnie or Jack. I just too much respect to call them that. I always addressed them as Mr. Always.
Any Arnold stories?
I never really he was a little bit older, and he was kind of obviously a little bit before my time, and I never really had the opportunities, even though I did play, his event at Bay Hill a number of times, but I never really had a lot of socializing with Mr. Palmer. So,
tell me about what happened at the Players Club and the driver and the drink.
So it was the
Players Championship.
It was the 7th hole, which would have been my 16th hole of the day on Friday. And at the time, the tee box was right up against the water. And I had teed up maybe, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 feet to the right of the water. And I hit my drive and I pulled it, and I knew it was going to go in the bunker. And right when I get here, and I basically let go of the club. But when it landed, grip and head. But when it landed, the head was kind of leaning towards the water. So when it hit, it went this way. And there was enough momentum that when it hit, the grip end came up and went over, and down into the water it went. And it happened so slow. I couldn't get it. And and there it goes, over it goes. So there was a gentleman. So originally I've got Louis Oosthuizen, who just won the Open Championship, and Noah Zelnick, who was my caddy.
Stop there for a sec, because Noah's been a guest on the program twice. He caddied for you.
Yes.
What a character. All right.
Yes, he is.
So I got his version. So I'm going to fact check you. Just keep going.
Mm-hmm. So, over it goes. So I've got Louis by one leg, and he's got Louis by the other leg. And he looked back to me, he goes, Michael, he goes, please don't drop me. I said, Louis, I promise you, I'm not dropping you. I promise it ain't happening. He couldn't get it. There was a gentleman that had been watching in the crowd, and he offered to come over and go down. Long story short, he got it, gave me the driver back. We got done with the round. I signed a glove for him and, thanked him, et cetera, et cetera. So that in a nutshell is what happened. It just kind of was a, release of the club, just landed awkwardly. It landed, flipped over again, and down it went. So,
well, it made for great video. I'll tell you that.
Yes, yes.
Have you seen it like multiple times?
Bits and pieces. I'm not big on watching myself do much of anything, to be honest with you.
Well, I enjoyed it thoroughly, and your description of it, and Noah's as well. Did you get fined for that?
No, absolutely not.
It just happened. It's just one of those things. Just a good laugh.
Yeah, there was no anger. There was no slamming. Nothing. It just I knew it was going left, and it was just a reaction. I just left the club. I don't think I driven the ball overly well that day, and I think it was just a little bit of frustration probably on my part, just to kind of let the club release. But that, in a nutshell, is what happened.
Did you at least buy Louis a beer afterward for the efforts going down wheelbarrow style?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's like, please don't let me go. I said, Louis, I promise you, I'm not letting you go.
You won 4 times on tour. Were all of those wins on Bermuda grass?
They were on Bermuda. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's the secret? Why do you do so well on Bermuda?
I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason. Obviously, I grew up on Bermuda. I love Bent just as well. I'm not a big Poa annua fan. I've never putted well. Northeast Poa annua, I'm not too bad. West Coast Poa annua, I'm a 17 handicapper when it comes to putting on West Coast Poa annua. But no rhyme or reason. Grew up in Florida, so I played in wind. A lot of people don't think it gets windy down here, but you would concur that you can get a lot of wind down here. So I grew up, in a lot of wind, having to and going out to Oklahoma State. There's a lot of wind in Oklahoma, so I grew up having to be able to flight the ball and control my trajectory. So I think that probably helped.
Yeah, well, we played with old equipment growing up. We had the wound ball, we had blades. Mm-hmm. And you had to flight the ball, or the wind was just going to take it everywhere. Like the modern golfer, the pros on tour, they just smash it through the wind. They don't flight it, and just if it takes 10 yards off it, fine, whatever.
The equipment's obviously a little bit different, but they're still the kids of today are still extremely talented. They're in obviously a lot better shape than probably what we were at that age. They understand their swings probably a lot better than what we did. So, it's just the evolution of the game. It's an evolution of a lot of sports too.
Well, we were almost told don't lift weights because that would tighten you up and create muscles and everything. I think Tiger gets credited with just, squashing that one. But even prior to that, Gary Player was doing it. Others were and your buddy Bill Glasson was doing it.
Billy G.
Right?
Yep. You got to stretch. I obviously spent a lot of time in the physio vans on tour, and I'd always ask them. I said, if there was one thing that you would tell us to do, just you can only do one thing. They say stretch.
Stretch before and stretch after.
Yep.
I mean, it makes getting out of the car when you're done. You and I know that from caddying. Holy smokes! If I stretch even for a couple minutes, massive difference. Then
huge difference. Huge difference.
Who's the best putter you ever saw in your time on tour?
Oh man, I mean, you could argue Ben Crenshaw, a Brad Faxon. In his prime, Tiger made a lot of clutch putts. Mm-hmm. And there'd be a lot of people that would probably concur with that. So, I would say those would definitely be some names that you'd have up on the list. But there's a lot of good putters, and any given week, somebody might look like the best putter in the world.
Yeah, right. How many times did you play with Tiger?
Just a couple times.
What was it like?
It's the last time I played with him was actually probably middle of '98. I had blown my back out and I had back surgery, and I was exempt for for Firestone for the NEC, the World Series, and it's a no cut tournament. So I'm like, that's a good one to come back at. I can maybe I'm going to get 4 rounds in, and maybe I can just kind of come back under the radar and just maybe go out and just see what I can do. And first round, who I get paired with, I get paired with Tiger. So so much for coming in under the radar.
Right. What was it like?
Oh, it's great. You got and I know 99.9% of the people out there, they weren't out there to watch me. They were out there to watch Tiger. I was out there to watch Tiger, So, it is. It's really a neat experience. And as long as you have galleries that are respectful, and the toughest thing is, a lot of times when he putts out, everybody starts skedaddling to the next tee box or down the fairway. So sometimes that can be a little distracting when you're trying to putt, but that going in. So
first time he hit a ball, like I'll never forget Paul Azinger describing it for the first time and just being like, holy shit. And he's not the only one. And other guys, when he first came on tour, a lot of the grizzled veterans are like, yeah, we'll see how good he really is. Let me at him. And if Hal Sutton says, you don't want any of that, the hell you do. I mean, you saw it. Was it like that for you or a little bit different?
Yeah. I mean, I think I probably was more in the appreciation mode. I'd always tell people, I said, man, you got all these Tiger haters and, this and that. I said, just appreciate and enjoy what you're watching, because you might not ever watch this in your lifetime again. I know Scotty Scheffler, I mean, he's about as close as it's been to the dominance that Tiger had for a dozen years or so. But, I'd always say, man, just sit back and enjoy it, because you might not ever see this again.
Yeah, and it almost seems like with some guys that they're peaking early, and where Tiger and almost like Jack, they had different careers. They had their early careers and then later careers. But I wonder about guys like Justin Thomas or Jordan Spieth. Did they peak too soon as the game? And you got all these young bucks coming in. I mean, it's incredible to see what they do, but to burn so hot. Did you ever burn out on golf? Did you ever fall out of love with golf and hate it?
I never hated golf. I mean, yeah, there were times where you're like, man, I need a little bit of time off just to kind of rest. And a lot of times it wasn't as much of a physical rest as it was just a mental rest. And especially if you were playing good, I know that sounds, weird, but when you're playing good and you're in the last groups, and you've always got that, the cameras around and the spectators and all the TV. And it just sometimes, for some people, it can just be kind of a mental grind. So I wasn't as much physically tired as I was just mentally tired. So.
Yeah, because the game consumes you. It takes so much while you're there. And then when you're off the golf course, you're thinking about what you got to do. I think Brandel Chambly said really nicely, a PGA Touring pro, he's either practicing or feeling guilty about not practicing. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I was. It was probably, I don't know, it was probably maybe college when I'd be home and those few months, and I might maybe sleep in or something. And my mom would always go, every day you miss, it takes 3 days to get it back. Every day you miss practicing, it's going to take 3 days to get back to where you were. Oh yeah, she was on me. My dad was never that bad, but my mom, yeah, I'd miss a couple of days, and she's like, it's going to take 4 days to get back what you had 4 days ago. So,
so mom was a Tiger mom?
I don't want to really call her a Tiger mom, but I would say she probably was more verbal when it came to my golf game. And if I maybe was getting a little lackadaisical, a little bit lazy, for me to get my keister out there and start playing and practicing.
That's a good mother. That's a good mother, because she loves you and cares about you.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a VJ Singh. I wasn't somebody that was going to get done playing the round and be out there for 3 hours. I mean, I just wasn't a guy that was just a big ball beater. I just wasn't. And sometimes, people misconstrue that as, what, if you would have practiced more, you probably would have had a better career. It's like, well, maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't have played as long if I would have, been out there and hit 3 times as many golf balls. I don't know. So,
well, you had a good run, a good long sustained run. When did your back give out, and when did your body kind of say enough's enough? Well,
so I kept my card in '93, my rookie year, and each year after that, I worked my way up the money list, and then in 1996, I had 6 top 5 finishes, and I won one and finished like 20th on the money list. And then 97, I was like 45th on the money list. And in about maybe 3-4 months, I won in beginning of 98. And then we were at I remember we were at the TPC Avenue at the Kemper Open. And I was on the range on Saturday, and I was hitting some balls, and I didn't feel right. And I'm thinking, it's going to be one of those days. I remember I had a 4-iron in my hand, and I took a swing, and I went to my knees, and the pain was ungodly. I somehow got down to the fitness trailer, and I was laying on the floor just thriving in pain. And fortunately, my manager at the time, they were right there in Virginia. And 3 days later, I was having back surgery.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Well, I know you take care. I see you stretching before you go out on loops. I've seen you upside down on that hanging thingy that we own. Yep. How does the body feel right now, and how much golf are you playing?
So for me, when my low back was bothering me, my hips would get uneven. So that's why I was always in the fitness trailer, and they would work on getting my hips level. When my hips were level, my back didn't bother me. But I'd say my biggest bugaboo right now is probably my right hip. I mean, I'm hoping that it's not to the point where maybe it's something that would require surgery, especially now that I'm not playing that much. But between that and some shoulder issues, I got a funny feeling that might be resonating from like my lower neck. But other than that, it's my low back. It really is not that bad, honestly. Mm-hmm. As long as I can keep my hips level, the low back's fine.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about caddying. When did that enter the picture, and what do you think makes a good caddy? What do you try to bring to the table?
I thought about that. I caddy a lot like when I was a player playing in pro-ams. Very, very kind of encouraging and supportive of the players. And if they hit a bad shot, that's okay. We're going to hit the next one good, or just whatever the case is. So I find myself, out there thinking that I'm actually playing when I'm not, but that's kind of the attitude I have, is like, I feel like I'm playing and being encouraging, regardless. I don't care if they're a scratch player or they're a 27 handicapper. It's all the pro-ams that I've played in my lifetime. And that's just kind of how I always approach playing it, just trying to be supportive and encouraging for the amateurs. So that's kind of how I approach my caddying.
Yeah. I see it. I see it in your attitude. Relentlessly positive. That's the way I look at it. And just make them feel good about something. Hey, don't worry about that. We got time. It's a par 5.
Yeah.
We'll get it up and down. Help them as best you can. Do you get noticed? Has anybody put it together? Hey, I know you're from somewhere when you're on a loop.
I try to not, when I'm out there, I do everything I can not to divulge what what I did previously. But a lot of times, they'll say, "Hey, how long you been out here?" Blah 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 blah. Was it, where were you before this? I said, I wasn't anywhere before this. This is, well, what'd you do before this? Once that comes out, it didn't matter. The gentleman I had today, we got to talking, and he said, "Well, blah blah blah. What'd you do before this?" And I was like, "Well, actually, I played on the PGA Tour for 23 years and Champions Tour for another 5 or 6 years, and blah blah blah." And he was like, "Oh my God, yeah." So again, it's not, when I'm out caddying, it's not about me. It's about making sure the 1, 2, 3, or 4 guests that I have that day have a great day. It's not about me and what I did. If it comes up and they want to talk about it, fine, but I'm not bringing it up.
That's a credit to you, because that's who you are. If you didn't know, you wouldn't know. On the golf course with your caddying, and when you're in the shack, you're just another one of the guys. I mean, that's how I see it.
That's it. No better, no worse.
You are one of the guys. Tell me, Michael, as we wrap things up, how much of your life revolves around golf? How important a role has it been in your life? Has it given you everything you have? Can you imagine life without golf in it?
I remember 20 years ago, someone said, "Well, if you didn't play golf, what would you be doing?" And I said, I really don't know what I do, what I would be doing if I wasn't playing golf. I mean, it's all I've wanted to do from a young age. So, but yeah, it's afforded me a lifestyle that I probably wouldn't have been able to have had I done something else. I feel that, if I would have done something else and been properly trained for it, I think I would have hopefully been successful at doing it. But golf's all I know, and it's all I've really wanted to do. And I've been very blessed and very fortunate to travel around the world. I've met a lot of great people in the process, and been able to see things and do things that, like I said, otherwise I probably would have never been able to do.
You're a soul golfer to the core. Hey, can we do a little show and tell? Like, where are you in the house? Can you kind of show us what's on the wall?
So I'm in the den in my house. Like I said, I've got some.
Yeah, move that computer around. Go.
I don't have. I've got some a few of my wins from scorecards and Doral and stuff. But this is the one I love right here. This was when I played with Jack. And it's got the picture of Jack. We were on the 14th hole right there, and that was a pretty special moment. But got a number of things. Got some trophies. Where am I? Sorry, got some some of the wins with the trophies back there and whatnot. So again, I just keep some of them out. I've got a lot of them in kind of storage and whatnot. Just not really the room to kind of display everything. But that's a good looking man cave. I like that. I like that. Yeah, like I said, I don't. It's usually when I'm in here writing bills, and I usually don't want to come in here to write bills, but everybody has to.
That's right. I mean, the bills never stop and everything. The cheers may stop, the competition may stop, but the bills keep coming.
Nope, they keep on coming. So.
Michael Bradley is our guest here on Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by the Golf Real Estate Pros of Gene Walsh and Vince Vizicaro from SuncoastDreams.com, a division of fine properties in the greater Sarasota area. If you want to live on a golf course, Gene and Vince got you covered. And if you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course, try a party. I know you'll love it. Michael, final question. If you had one tip to give, maybe one that you gave to all those amateurs you played in the pro-ams over the years, somebody you got a loop with, or somebody that's just out playing golf that will help them, what would it be?
Well, you know what? You've got to be patient, and you've got to be persistent in this game. If you hit a bad shot, that doesn't mean the next shot's going to be bad. And if you hit a good one, it doesn't mean the one's going to be good. You just have to continue to try each time. And again, be patient and be persistent. And that's really all you can do. And the quote that I gave you earlier about being, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And again, that's in many walks of life. And if you can do that, it's such a leg up, because think of all the people that suffer with anxiety and and if you have the ability to just accept the surroundings that you're in and go, okay, yeah, you know what? I'm nervous. It's the first tee, and I'm nervous. But guess what? These other guys, they're probably just as nervous as me. And if you can take that, channel that into some positive energy, it just makes it so much more enjoyable, and not to be out there for 4.5 hours just stressed.
Nothing wrong with being nervous. It doesn't mean you're unprepared. And Dan Forsman said,
"It means you care."
Yes, that too.
It means you care. So.
And you can still hit good shots. I mean, you've hit them. Tiger's hit them.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan Forsman told a great story standing on the 12th tee at Augusta National and the Masters playing with Jack Nicklaus. And he said, "Jack, I can barely feel my hands." And Jack looked at him and he said, "Isn't it something?"
Yeah.
Meaning he feels it too. And if Jack can feel the nerves and do all he did, then we can find it we can settle ourselves down our own way, don't you think?
You've got to embrace it. And it probably was something when I was younger I probably didn't do a good job of. I kind of would not, I won't say run away from it, but I didn't. It wasn't my personality. I've never been a center of attention, person. And I guess I probably felt uncomfortable in the spotlight. It's something that as I got older, I think I got a little bit better handling. But I know early in my career, I didn't like it. I was very uncomfortable with it.
Well, Michael, I'll tell you this. You seem like you're in a very comfortable stage of your life right now. I always enjoy our conversations, the spirit you bring to the shack, that you bring to the golf course, and makes my day when I see you. And just keep bringing it. All right, buddy?
I'm gonna keep on being me. You know that.
That's it. That's all you need. That's enough.
Yep.
Michael Bradley, as he is good people. And Michael, you were a good guest. Will you come back sometime?
Absolutely, Kevin. You know that you never have to ask me. I'll always, anytime you want me to come on.
All right. That means a lot. Michael Bradley has been our guest here on Party Time, brought to you by Party Drinks and the Golf Real Estate Pros of Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro. For Michael Bradley, I'm Kevin Walsh. We'll see you again next time on Party Time, My Golf Story.
Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers, and the Golf Real Estate Pros Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com or call 941-220-4000.